What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Liam Tuminello, LT6 Sports Productions, but today we are talking with Peter Lenkov, the showrunner, creator, writer, I think producer, everything to do with Hawaii Five-0. He's done many other things, very talented man, but today we're going to be focusing on Hawaii Five-0, my favorite TV show of all time. The man who brought back Steve McGarrett and Danny Williams and everyone else. So thank you so much, Peter, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. What a nice intro. Thank you.
And I will say, thank you so much for emailing me back so timely and frequently. You do such a better job than any teacher I've ever had, and it's their job to email me back. I will say that.
You know, when being in the TV business, knowing that people are always waiting for an answer because they need to do their job in order to get. I'm so used to responding to emails quickly and getting them off my plate because I know that the person on the other end is waiting for an answer. So that's just a muscle exercise over so many years of doing, sort of timely work or work that was in a real timely fashion.
Mm-hmm. Now, first of all, I know you're a big Dodgers fan and you're from Canada, so I'm sure the World Series. I've been following your Instagram stories too. They're very entertaining. You were a little conflicted, but you were okay with whoever wins because whoever wins, you sort of won in a way. But were you able to watch some of those World Series games, and what did you make of that?
First of all, I watched every game. I watched all the playoffs, which is always the best time to watch baseball.
Oh yes,
when it really means something. Really, I'm an Expos fan.
Okay.
So there's no Expos.
Yes.
Expos are Washington. So
yeah.
I can't really root for Washington. I have no connection to that place. But still an Expos fan at heart.
Sure.
When Toronto got into the World Series, I was conflicted because here you have a team from Canada playing a team from the United States, and what a team, the Dodgers. I thought that, like you said, whoever won, I won because I would have been happy for either team to win.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it was a true World Series, that it was two countries pitted against each other, which is exciting. And again, it makes baseball more international because it's not just a Subway Series or it's not East versus West. It's really two countries playing for who's best.
Yeah, and really with Ohtani on the Dodgers, really three countries at that point.
Well, it's really, when you look at baseball today, it's such an international sport.
Oh, yeah.
That there's players from all over the globe that it really has become not America's pastime, but the world's pastime. So that's what I also love about baseball is the fact that, you're drawing players from every corner of the world, and they're all spectacular players. And they end up playing for this team that a lot of times they have no connection to.
Yeah.
But for me, the Dodgers and Toronto was a spectacular series. It was great. I mean, I don't know anybody who could watch those games and think it wasn't the best World Series in years.
Oh yeah, of course. It might have been a little better for you time-wise, being where you're from. For that 18 inning, was that game 3 or 4? Central Time. I think I was up till like 2 in the morning. Yeah. I was on the phone with my brother. I was watching the game, and I was giving him the play-by-play, and then he fell asleep at like 12:30 and just stopped talking. I was like, okay, I guess he passed out. So then I hung up. And then I texted him in the morning that the Dodgers won. He said, how late did it go? I said, dude, I was on the phone. You went to bed at like 12:30. It was like 2 o'clock at least for me.
Amazing. It was better for our time zone, but that was an amazing. I mean, the whole series, every game was spectacular.
Oh yeah.
But that one, that was pretty long. I think there was only one other World Series games that went to 18 innings.
Yeah, that was
16 innings.
It was 18. It was also the Dodgers. It was also Game 3 in 2018 against the Red Sox, where the Dodgers won that game as well.
That's right. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. The Blue Jays played better in that series. The games they won, they blew out the Dodgers, and then the games they lost by like 1, so that was kind of frustrating. I didn't really care one way or the other. I'm a Milwaukee Brewers fan, so Dodgers keep breaking my heart in the playoffs, but that was a really fun series. Now, you were recently on the Brotherly Love podcast with the Lawrence brothers. Andrew Lawrence was on the show Hawaii Five-0 as Danny's nephew, and then obviously Joey Lawrence appeared later in the show as a villain. How was it being on their podcast, getting to talk with them and reminisce about 5-0 and TV and film and everything else?
It was fun. I've known them for quite a while. Actually, Andy was at my house yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Just catching up. But, yeah, I mean, I talked to them regularly, so it wasn't... It wasn't
out of the blue. You didn't see him for a while. That type of deal.
No. We talked regularly. It was fun to do the podcast. It was fun to sort of just ramble a little bit. It's really free form. There's no real. I mean, they have some questions, but nothing like that takes you down a rabbit hole. You really could sort of move very fluidly from one subject to another. But they do a great job, and they're fun guys. They really. It's for me at least, the way I observe it, it's a unique experience because not all brothers are that close. And the fact that they're all in the same business, the fact that they're not competitive, is amazing. And it was a great time, and I love spending time with those guys. They're fun. They have great stories also.
They definitely do.
They've been in the business since they're kids. So,
yeah,
it's amazing.
And then you can talk about, I know you're from Canada, and that's where you post about the CFL a lot. I like that you still a big fan of the CFL. I'm sure you like the NFL as well, but talk about the CFL a little bit.
I love the CFL. I mean, this is out there, but about 5 years ago, my brothers and I and my brother-in-law, we came very close to buying the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh, wow.
We were like in the final stages of closing the deal. And,
that's really cool.
The deal ended up falling apart. But that year I went to a lot of games, got to really experience the Alouette culture and got to interact with a lot of the fans. And I thought that's really where, a big chunk of my fall was going to be every year from then on was going to be in Montreal, with the Alouettes. I love, and again, I grew up in Montreal, so even though my favorite team is the Pittsburgh Steelers, I grew up with, Stallworth and Swan and Terry Bradshaw and Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer, those were my heroes. And Steelers were my team, and they were the underdogs. I always go for the underdogs. Back then, Dallas Cowboys were sort of like the team, and the Steelers were the underdogs. But I always loved Canadian football. I found it to be, in a lot of ways, more exciting than the NFL because you had 3 downs. The game was always moving really quick, always high scoring. There were a lot of things that made it, and maybe there was a part of me, because I played football as a kid, maybe there's a part of me believing that actually one day I could actually play for the Alouettes or play for CFL. It seemed like a goal that was attainable in a weird way because the players weren't as sort of fierce or as big as the NFL. It just felt like a place where, you could actually, play a year or two. The fans are really unique and they're hardcore. And if you follow the Alouettes, you're diehard. The stadium's not that big, but when you have a fan, they're a fan for life. And I love that about the CFL.
That's cool. What did you what positions did you play growing up? What were you?
Running back.
You're running back?
I was a running back.
How late did you play until? Roughly.
Oh God, not long. 16.
Okay.
But as a kid, I was always like, at 13, I was the same size as I am now. Which is 5'9" and say 170 pounds. And I was I was big. I mean, not big, but I was running back. So I was running back size.
Yeah, good size.
And but once I started, going into my later teens, everybody was way bigger than me. So it's not something I wanted to do. Plus, you once you start breaking fingers with steel, steel cleats were back then. So, if somebody stepped on your finger when you were tackled, I mean, your finger was busted and busted for good. So, it was different. But I love football, up until up until COVID, I had a league where we played a couple times a year flag football.
Oh, that's cool.
With a bunch of friends and stuff. So, but yeah, CFL was a big part of my life growing up, and it almost became an even bigger part of my life as an adult. So,
would you like to potentially try again to buy a team, or if it comes up for sale again in the future, is that maybe something you'd revisit?
I would, as a minority owner.
Okay.
I would. I wouldn't want to be. I don't know if I would want the responsibility I was willing to take on 5 years ago.
Time.
I think I'd like to. A group of friends and I, we have a fund, and we own a few minor league teams, and
that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm really just an investor and an observer and a cheerleader. So
I got you.
And I like that. Years ago, I was going to buy a little piece of the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
As a really small piece. I ended up not doing it, but that's as far as I would want to go, in that line of business.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's something I wasn't expecting to hear from you. So that's really cool to see. It's pretty unique.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about it another time, but yeah, I have a group called Top Tier, and we one of the main guys who formed it is one of the majority owners of the Texas Rangers, and
that's cool.
So we ended up buying a lot of minor league teams, hockey, basketball, baseball, Claiborne Railroaders, and a few teams, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I love minor league sports also. I mean, it's you got to be diehard to do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was a dream I had as a kid and still do. I really want to own a minor league baseball team. For me, it was an independent league team, so I mean, pretty much a minor league team. The Schaumburg Boomers, kind of around the Chicago area.
Okay.
In 2021, I got the opportunity. I had a friend on the team, and I got the opportunity to film a documentary on them for my YouTube channel, which is on there.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't get any money, but I got unlimited access to. I used to film the games from the dugout. I'd be in the locker room with them. I got to travel with them on the road trips, and just film a documentary. And I just did everything I could, and I really loved that. They ended up winning the championship that year, so that was really cool.
Oh wow! Did you get a ring?
I do have a ring. I do have a ring, which is really cool. They gave me a ring.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I got the room with some of the players during on road trips when they didn't have enough rooms. I was rooming with them. They'd wake me up at 2 a.m. to go celebrate with them. I was like, all right, it's really cool. I love the atmosphere. I love the lifestyle. So that is really cool. That's something I have been thinking about for a long time as well. So that's really cool.
Well, that's a good goal. We just got the Port Angeles lefties.
Okay.
And you buy a team. You don't look at a team as you're buying it to make money. You buy the team to sort of promote, support a community that otherwise could lose the team if you don't get involved.
Exactly.
And, so it's really for the love of the sport.
Yes, that's exactly it.
But that's a great goal. I'm sure you'll get there. It's something that is very attainable for people like us. That, that sort of don't have the that make our own way and make our own resources. So
exactly. So yeah, after the podcast, I'm definitely gonna have you send me a list of some of the teams that you're invested in and that you own part of, and I'm gonna have to start following them and supporting them because that's really cool. I'm really interested in that. Now, getting into Hawaii Five-0 a little bit, and as I was doing my research for this, I guess before Hawaii Five-0, I found out that you wrote and kind of made Demolition Man, a movie that starred Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and Sandra Bullock. And were you 24 when you did that? Was my math correct?
Yeah, I was about 24, yeah.
That's crazy. I saw on the Brotherly Love podcast when they were asking how'd you do that. You said I needed food to survive. It was pretty easy. I just had to write for that. So that is really cool. Because I was telling my fiance that right before it started. I said, "Man, I know you can't think like this, but I was like, I'm 23. I was like, what am I doing?" But that's really cool.
No, I'll say this. So I came from at 22. I came from Montreal to Los Angeles, and my dad gave me everything that he had, which like he could afford to give me, which was $2,500, and that's what I had. And $2,500, no green card. I had to figure out a way to survive. That makes you very hungry.
Yeah.
And when you're very hungry,
it's a big risk.
You're very aggressive very early in your career. You know, most people are not thrown into the deep end like that. I was thrown into the deep end. So if I had any success early on, it was really out of the fact that I was in a situation where I had to survive. I had to figure out a way to survive. So I was writing a lot of screenplays that were really crap. I mean, junk. And I finally hit a couple. One of them being Demolition Man. But I find that's more of a unique situation than most, because most people have some kind of comfort zone. I mean, I didn't have a place I could stay at if I couldn't pay the rent. I didn't, you know, so I had to find a way to eat and pay the rent, and it just meant not sleeping, and also I took a lot of crappy jobs, moving beds from hotel rooms during film festivals, doing whatever I could to make a little bit of money. But again, I think at that age, even then, like I bought a house when I was 25, and most of my friends were not even close to that sort of change in their lives. It's just that I matured a little quicker because of the situation I was in. I think that maturity came at a very accelerated speed because of the position I was in.
I gotcha. Does your family still live in Montreal, or a good chunk of them?
Nobody lives there anymore.
Oh, okay.
My parents had moved to Florida many years ago, about 30 years ago. They passed now. And I have a brother in Chicago, a brother in Los Angeles, and a sister in New York. And I have one set of aunt and uncle in Montreal, and that's it. Okay. Except for friends. Sure. A lot of friends there that I grew up with, I still stay in touch with. But for the most part, my family is not there anymore.
Okay.
We have no footprint in Montreal anymore. It's sad because I love the place.
Okay. I gotcha. And now, transitioning finally to Five-0, did your dad help inspire the creation of the Five-0 reboot?
It's funny. I've told this story before. He inspired me in terms of wanting to take the job when it was offered to me. Okay. And knowing there was this pressure added to make it somewhat good. Yeah. Or at least attempt to make it good, because I knew how important the show was to him. Growing up in Montreal, he grew up in Montreal also. Okay. When 8 months of the year are winters, cold, the idea of going to Hawaii once a week, even if it's on TV, was a real comfort. And it was a great way to see the world, see a different part of the world, which, we didn't have a lot of exposure to. And I just knew the show was important to him because he had loved it. And also had dreamt always to go to Hawaii one day, which he ultimately did. But, that really was one of the drives that made me sort of, work hard to make it last and keep it on the air and just do the best work I could do, every day that I was working on the show, despite the fact that after a while you get exhausted and you feel like, okay, you could coast a little bit, but always knowing how important it was to him and that it probably was important to other people really was a big driving force for me.
That's cool. I remember watching the original series with my dad when I was a little kid growing up too, so I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat as you. And then how long does it take from when you first get the idea of a Five-0 reboot to the first episode eventually coming out? And then what's the process of starting a TV show like?
I was at a CBS party, and I was actually going to leave the party because I don't like going to these events, but I ended up going because I was on another show at the time, and I felt like I had to make an appearance there. And I was leaving, and an executive sort of caught me on my way out and said, "Hey, you ever watch Five-0?" And I said, "Yeah, my dad used to watch it all the time. I sort of remember." And he goes, "Okay, well, if you want, we're gonna hear pitches again," because they had developed it as a script the year before, and I think they weren't happy with the material that they got back, so they were going to put it into development again, and they were looking for a writer that had the right sensibility to write the script.
Okay.
And so I went home and I ended up like coming up with a pitch, pitching it. I think I sold it to them sometime in September. I delivered the script in December. We started shooting end of February 2010. The pilot was finished by May 2010, and we were picked up and then on the air as an official series in August of 2010. So
that happened kind of quickly
from
then.
From beginning to end, from just concept to series on the air was probably about 11, almost a year, 11 months, almost a year.
That's a lot shorter than what I would have expected.
Well, it is a lot of the time, but in this case, the elements came together in the right way. There was a lot of alchemy involved. I think they liked the script enough to have us go out and look for a cast. The cast came. Sometimes those elements, if one of them falls apart, the show could be put on the shelf for a year, put on the shelf for a period of time. We just happened to have the right thing where the script that they were happy with, we got the right director, we got the right cast. So a lot of things worked in our favor, which made it feel faster than it normally is.
Okay. And that brings me into my next question, which was, what was the casting process like? And then what made Alex O'Loughlin stand out for the role of Steve?
Well, it's funny. I had written something for CBS the year before that James Mangold was going to direct.
Okay.
James did the Bob Dylan biopic, and he did the Last Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Ford versus Ferrari. Great director.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to work with him, and I wrote this script that he was going to direct. And the head of the studio, Nina Tassler, had us meet with Alex because she wanted us to consider him for the role. Okay. And we met with him, and the role was very different. The role was for a sort of like Hip Quincy, like a coroner who solves murders. And we met with Alex, and we walked away from the meeting, and I thought, like, this guy's an action hero. He's not I don't know if I believe him as a doctor, but I would believe him as an action hero. And that stuck with me. So the next year when I wrote 5-0 and his name came back up, it just seemed like, the right person to take another meeting with. And it turned out to be, it's funny, that year he did do a role as a doctor, which only went, I think, 13 episodes or 9 episodes, something like that, called Three Rivers.
Yep.
It didn't go that far, but the next year he played McGarrett and was an action hero for 10 years. So I think that gut reaction we had in that first meeting was right.
Wow, okay. So, yeah, you were looking at him from maybe a different project, and you kind of remembered him and from later on. That's cool. Were there any other guys that you were kind of considering, or any names being thrown around for his part?
There were, but I think that was the one that made the most sense ultimately. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it definitely worked out. And what made Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Caan the right duo to anchor the show? And what was and then also what was it like having some of the like a great love-hate relationship between them, and having them be two, a duo on TV?
I think, I did not know them when I wrote the script.
Okay.
But I wrote two characters that ultimately I found to be very close to their personalities. And it's out there that Scott in the early days did not love being in Hawaii. Didn't like being away from his family. Didn't like being so far from his sort of life in L.A. And that was the character of Danny. That was the character. And again, that just happened to be the character that I wrote. We found the right actor for it. And the same with Alex. Alex had a lot of McGarrett personalities. And the fact that they were so different and they came up to situations with different points of view gave the show in that relationship a lot of conflict, which led to a lot of sort of this, this sort of love-hate relationship, which led to a bromance that these two guys, I was gonna, it was gonna be in the script whether or not it happened in real life, but it was the same as their sort of relationship. They became very close. They became like brothers in real life, and that's very much the trajectory of the character relationship. They really enjoyed being around each other, and that translated to the screen. Not every time when you cast a show do you have actors that like each other. They may pretend to like each other, but that will come across after a while.
Yeah. These
two guys really enjoyed each other and respected each other. And both of them were super talented. And you could tell that they respected each other. And that just translated great to screen. And I mean, that would have been in the scripts either way, but I think what they brought, the reality of what they brought to those roles just made it so dynamic and made that relationship so lovable.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, that's funny how it kind of worked out with their personalities kind of being similar to their characters. That doesn't often happen. Were there any character arcs that changed significantly from your original plan and concept of the show?
Oh, wow. I mean, writing a show is so fluid because sometimes a character doesn't work for one reason or another, so you have to shift gears and make some changes. Sometimes a character works better than you expected, and honestly, I always thought that Kamakona, Taylor Wiley, was going to be somebody who is recurring, and he ultimately was so good that I just made him a series regular. I mean, he just knocked it out of the park. He was always a fan favorite. Every time he was on screen, you smiled. And there were a lot of characters like that who, the same with, Shy McBride, same thing with his character. He was only supposed to do a few episodes. And I remember I was in Portland actually for one of the premieres of R.I.P.D. and this movie we did, and I remember talking to his agent saying, "You should just make him an offer for more episodes. He's open to it." And it's funny because I was hoping that he would be open to it because the deal we had originally was only for a few episodes and then he was going to be gone. But everybody loved his character so much that decided to keep him as a regular. So things changed all the time. I mean, there's characters that we lost for reasons why sometimes they just didn't work for the audience or work for the story that we had pivoted to. So.
And then was there a character that you found that was kind of a challenge to write for?
I'm not going to ever say that.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Yeah. There were. But I can't say that. Okay. I mean, I'd have to be on my deathbed to tell you that.
I gotcha. Now, my biggest gripe with the show is that Steve and Catherine never really ended up together. They sort of did in the last scene of the episode, but it didn't exactly work out, and they were on and off from literally the beginning to the end. Was Was that a deliberate choice, or did it just kind of work out that way with scheduling? Or I don't know what went into that. I was just wondering.
I was certain there was going to be a season 11.
Okay.
So in the finale, the idea was that they were going to go off together and then come back.
Okay.
He was going to come back alone. And I don't want to go too far into, but he comes back alone and resumes his work on the task force. And I was certain through the whole process, even though we were shooting that scene a few days later after I discovered the show was canceled, I was still certain we would come back. So I was always under the impression that was just a cliffhanger, them going off together. And it was never going to be the real end of the show. So it shows you what little I know. But I had always hoped that, we would get that season 11 and I could wrap up the show in a different way, but that didn't happen. Because I was always certain that a lot of times, like the show, it would almost come to an end because it was a negotiating tactic, or there was always something. But in this, and also I always thought it was going to end. So I just thought, like, okay, the audience, because I had seen the audience bring other shows back. I thought, okay, we'll come back. It's not like this is the end. But it was, and so I just never got the chance to implement any of those ideas. But it was not supposed to be the end of that relationship or the end of the relationship with Danny. It was just another hurdle put in front of these characters that kept them away from each other until they're reunited. So,
okay. Can you say did you have an original thought or plan for how you wanted the show to end? If not, it's totally okay.
Originally, I used up this gag earlier than I should have, because we weren't ready technologically yet. Now we can do it, but I was going to do this scene, and this was going to be the end of the show, where McGarrett had lost so much at that point that he was contemplating leaving the task force, and he goes, and he's in this park, and he sits down on the bench. And this older man comes and sits next to him. And it turns out that that's Jack Lord.
Yeah, you guys did an episode where you brought back Jack Lord.
And Jack Lord, he just says, what's wrong? And he says that he was a cop back in the day. No matter how hard it got, the job was so rewarding and all this stuff. And you're not going to see that it's Jack Lord at first, but he's talking to this guy, and he listens to him, and the Jack Lord character says, "It's really nice to meet you. I hope, you make the right decision." And he gets up and walks away, and McGarrett sits there, and the phone rings, and he picks it up, just like in 250 episodes before. He says, "I'll be right there." And then it went to black. So you realize he was going to stay on the task force. So that was going to be my ending early on. And then I ended up using that gag because our post-production guy at the time had showed me a test that they had done, and I thought, oh my God, I better do this.
Yeah, well, you still have...
Which is basically do this while, A, we're still on the air.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't get yanked. And also before somebody else does it. So I should have been patient. And because it would have been a much more dynamic scene. We utilized the Jack Lord character in the scene where Danny was sort of in the hospital and McGarrett was sort of coming to grips with perhaps losing his best friend. But that was going to be the ending. And then I had some other ideas that I was going to entertain how to end the show. But it always was going to end with McGarrett and Danny as sort of, this bromance. Still being alive and well. Even we had done the scenes where they're old men.
Yes.
That was going to be an ending once. So I used up a few of my ideas for endings.
Okay. That's really interesting. I was always wondering that, and now like being able to hear some of the behind the scenes stuff is really cool. This is really fun. Now, one of the things that I liked most about Five-0, which and my fiance did too, which differs from a lot of traditional cop shows, is the immunity and means aspect of it, where um, Steve is dangling a suspect from a hotel building or strapping him to the car and driving around town. Um, was that intentional to make to stand out from other shows?
Here's what I had thought. I love like James Bond. I love a lot of these sort of like, and when I say Bond, like the newer Bond, like that character, the strength of that character. But I thought if I knew that the original Jack Lord was a naval intelligence, but I was trying to like wrap my head around what that means. And I was thinking more like Black Ops kind of stuff.
Sure.
Being like the guy in the Navy, that the SEALs go to for help, So I wanted that kind of character. And I thought if you're going to give that character a police badge and make that character who's used to kicking in doors, used to shooting first and asking questions later, doing the stuff that a soldier would do in battle, but bring that to the streets of a city, like what would his mindset be and how would he go about policing? And that's really because when you think about there is a code that soldiers live by and they fight by, but I wanted to bring that which is less constricted rule wise as a normal cop would be. I just wanted to make it like a different type of cop show where these guys have authority by the governor to do whatever's necessary to get the job done. Just like a soldier who's put into the field and is told do whatever is necessary to survive and win. It was really where that came from.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the first lines I wrote was the line when he's with Will Yun Lee with Sang Min, and he says he hits him with the ashtray. He says, "You can't do that. You're the cops. And he says like we're a new kind of cop, and that was the whole idea of like a summation of my point of view of what this show would be. Like what kind of cops are you? And he goes the new kind, and that really was sort of the branding of the show. That's when I wrote that very early on in terms of everybody understanding what the tone of the show would be.
Okay.
And the spirit of the show, that we're going to do things that cop shows necessarily or don't necessarily do.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite on-set story about the cast that no one's heard before? Or a moment or anything? Or a good one that you like to tell. Doesn't matter.
Well, no, I mean, I think, there was a lot of things we did early on where, Alex participated in it. And it wasn't necessarily set, but like we had to go and go to the Capitol building in Honolulu and talk to all the politicians, the senators, the Congress people that represented Hawaii, to talk about why our show was important to the state and why, because we did get some benefits shooting in Hawaii. Sure. And I like the fact that we were like all in the trenches together, and I liked that part of it. I also liked how gracious everybody. We had a lot of especially early on, we had a lot of guests. I mean, because when you're the only show in town, everybody that comes to the island wants to come to set, and our talent, and it got less and less over the years. But in the early days, they were so gracious, and we understood that leaving a good footprint behind was important. So, one of the best things for me was every year we adopted a school, like this needy school, and we would, and I don't even know if this ever got out or not, but we would adopt a school. We'd buy a Christmas gift for every child. we'd stock up their library. We would fix their sports courts. We would do some like things that Santa Claus would do. That you don't see them, but they're there. And every year we'd go to a school. We'd make the gift presentation. We never asked for press to come. And for me, that like brought our cast and crew together.
Oh yeah,
it was something we did to give back to the island, and that's really, some of my favorite moments was that of the giving back, because I always said I don't want to just take. I want to leave something behind. Yeah, and that you could see, it's easy to say, but in a small place like that, you could make an impact. You could do something.
Sure, 100%.
And we did. And that I think for me was really the best part of the show, was what we left behind there. Even the small things like just fixing up the studio. We left the studio better than we inherited it. So, it was, and again, it was, and I don't know if I said this, but I say this all the time, it was the best 10 years of any show I've ever done. So, and I've done a lot.
Yeah.
But that's the best.
That's awesome. Now, as you said, the show ran for 10 seasons, and after the John McGarrett storyline had wrapped up and, Steve has found his killer, how did you keep the show fresh with new concepts and ideas and keeping viewers engaged?
I don't know, pure desperation. Everybody, the original show ended after 12 years, 12 and finally catching Wo Fat. I knew that I didn't have that patient an audience that would wait, our entire run. So I think it was our 100th episode where we caught and killed Wo Fat. So after that, you just look for, and it's not plotting and it's not new villains. You just look for ways to build out your characters, because people, for the most part, people don't remember the plots. They remember the characters.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the first thing you were asking me about is casting and the relationship between McGarrett and Danny. So clearly we did our job. So those are the things that we focused on. And I knew early on that the success of the show was the relationships, was our characters. So I always looked for ways to sort of have them grow, evolve, and how the relationships amongst each other change, and how to add new faces to the mix and how that impacts the team and the balance. But it was never about plot or villains. Always about character first, which is rare for, a procedural show.
Yeah.
I think so.
Now, can you talk a little bit about the plethora of guest stars you've had on the show and what went into finally landing someone that you pursued for a long time? And then what did a person need to have in order to be on the show? Because I believe it was on the Brotherly Love podcast that you said that, you have a very high standard for people that you wanted on the show.
What did it take? It took a first-class ticket. I think I think I got, and again, I think the show was a very unique experience. I think when we were trying to lure a guest star, it was a lot easier them knowing they were going to Hawaii.
True.
Sometimes they'd ask for an extended stay there, which was easy to do. We had great partners at the Hilton. The Hilton were big partners of the show that participated in helping put up our cast, our guest cast, some of the crew. You could not get a better partner than them, and they made it easy to extend stays, make people feel comfortable, and want to get there. I had a high bar for talent. A lot of times, I knew I would if there was an actor I saw somewhere, I'd write their name down and try, ultimately, when the right role came in, I would try to find a spot for them. So for the most part, if I couldn't get them to say yes, I would pursue until they did say yes. And then there were times like with people like Carol Burnett, who Larry Minetti just introduced me to, and over dinner I asked her if she'd be on the show, and she said yes. And
that was someone I was going to ask about.
Yeah, and Ed Asner I knew for a long time, so just asking him was easy. People like Michael Madsen, so like those were people that I just was a fan of, and ultimately got introduced to, and they said yes. I think the fact that the show was popular helped.
Yeah,
the fact that it was in Hawaii helped.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if necessarily everybody signed on because they said, "Wow, that's a role I haven't played before." I think the latter two were big reasons why they said
that definitely helps.
And it was the same, even with, really great directors and cast, we had, the biggest draw, which was The Island, going for us.
Who was someone that you had who said no at first that you ended up getting? Who'd you have to pursue for a while?
Oh, God, I don't know. After it was like 200 and something 250 episodes. I don't even remember. I'm sure I'm going to remember the minute I hang up.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, there were some people that, and a lot of times, sometimes it's scheduling or whatever that don't want
it doesn't line
that
up.
Particular role. And sometimes it was just favors, like calling Pauly Shore and asking to do the show, even though it was a small little role. He did it. So sometimes people just do things as a favor for you. Or like Peter Weller. I'll tell you, Peter Weller was hard. He said no at first a couple times, and finally, what got him to say yes is I had him direct the episode that he was starring in.
Huh?
So that was a way to get him to say yes. So that was a hard one.
Yeah, that's a unique story.
RoboCop into the show.
Yeah.
Where I had to come up with a way to make it some incentive to make it worth his while.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then, what were your favorite types of episodes to film? Some of the guest star episodes, the holiday ones, big stunts. What was your favorite?
The outside the box episodes, like the Japanese internment camp, the one anything to do with like anything that was outside, or like the period piece one where we flash back, or the 100th episode where it's sort of like a alternative view into what would have happened if McGarrett's father had survived.
Yeah.
Things that were outside the box of a normal procedural episode.
Sure.
Those were, I'd actually, you could see it online. I actually had done a cartoon, a 5-0 cartoon that was going to open an episode up. And ultimately, I had heard back that Les Moonves thought that the audience would be confused and think they're watching a cartoon and tune out. But I loved the idea of I was going to open the show with that, and it was a McGarrett and Danny cartoon, and it was going to morph into the real characters. That's liked trying things that were never done before.
Sure.
A dog that had PTSD. I liked things like that. Anytime I could sort of like go outside the box on an episode, those were my favorites.
Yeah, I know there was one where Steve and Danny played old-timey cops, and it was like a flashback.
Yeah, the period episode, yeah.
Yeah, and then also, I guess it was kind of a normal show, but there's the one where they had the drone that with the machine guns or whatever, that was just a diversion for the plane getting down. There's a lot of unique things that went on there.
Yeah.
And being a big sports fan like you are, how cool is it to film some of the sport-related episodes? It seems like a lot of NFL players guest starred at one point or another, like the Bennett brothers, Jerry Rice, Arian Foster. He had a little role as well, and Eric Dickerson.
Well, they used to do the Pro Bowl in Hawaii.
Yes.
So once a year, we'd always have everybody down there, veterans, active players. they used to always come to the set, so it was easy to sort of find a spot for them.
That's cool.
And we used to go to all the events, so um, we used to like get to meet all the players, and they all wanted to get on the show somehow. Andre Reed and I became close friends because he just was adamant about being on the show. And then
That's cool.
I did put him on. I think I put him on Magnum too, or I put him on MacGyver. I don't remember, but he's been in a few.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was always fun. When they did the Pro Bowl, it was great because there was a whole week of football, NFL related events.
Yeah.
I knew that I was always going to get the heroes down to the set and get to hang out and, sort of chew off their ear with a lot of questions and stuff. So
they need to bring the Pro Bowl back to Hawaii. And
I don't think that's ever going to happen again. You got to build a new stadium also.
Yeah.
I think that was always the issue.
Yeah, they can't.
But it was fun. It was fun. I got to experience a lot of it. So
they can't find a good format for it either anymore. But that's all right.
Yeah.
And now, you talked about a little bit with putting Andre Reed on MacGyver, one of your other shows. How did you manage your time while running multiple shows at once? I know you said at one point you were doing like 70-ish episodes a year throughout your shows.
Yeah. You asked me how I did it?
Yeah.
It's, not sleeping.
Yeah.
It's really that. It's really, and I did sleep, a few hours.
Sure.
But it was triage. If you're in the military and you have a soldier full of, injured soldiers and you're running around, you're looking for the one that's injured the most, you're repairing that one and moving on to the next. And I did everything like that. I did triage where, whatever the issue was, I made sure I fixed it, move on to the next thing, and was constantly moving. Going from, I had all my editing rooms in one area, so I'd be able to pop back and forth into different rooms. And it was just that. And I definitely could have delegated more. I was not a good delegator. I took on too much, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Sure, yeah.
And,
I can imagine.
It was definitely challenging, but it worked somehow. It's not you. I mean, look, when you think about what Taylor Sheridan does today with all his shows and writing mostly every episode, I mean, it's not a unique thing to be a workaholic and take on too much. As long as you want to. I mean, I also wanted to. I always felt a responsibility for the end product in a way that if the show had failed, I didn't want to start looking at other people as being responsible for that. I needed to be the one that had the final say. And, whether that was good or a curse, I think it just, for me, it was the only way I could do the show, is to be sort of like, the final say on everything. So
I gotcha. What parts of the show's legacy mean the most to you now, 5 years-ish removed from the finale?
I think that it was and still is the longest running reboot of a television show, and I think that's a huge accomplishment. And it's not my accomplishment; it's like our accomplishment. But I think that's pretty cool because a lot, most folks thought we were going to last a year or two, like every other reboot.
Yeah,
and we, God, my God, we exceeded everyone's expectations, especially mine also. And I think that's the great legacy. And also, I know it's on Ion TV now, and it's still watchable.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because I still hear from people that they enjoyed as much as they, as anything that they watch on TV. And then there's people who have watched every episode 50 times and it's still enjoyable. So we did something right. If that's the feedback we're getting.
That's awesome. And that was it for some of my main questions. I have a little segment here, just some rapid fire questions. If you're ready, I got a couple of those.
Sure.
Favorite Steve McGarrett line?
The new kind.
The new kind. Funniest cast member on set?
Ooh. God, there was a lot. I mean, Taylor Wiley was always like a blast to have around and a goofball. And I loved his sort of spirit and the energy he brought. Shy McBride was always a prankster also. But yeah, I don't know. There's a few. Megan Rath was always funny. She was a blast. But yeah.
The episode you'd rewatch first if you had to pick one right now.
Probably the 100th or the Japanese internment camp episode.
Who was more likely to crack up during a serious scene, Alex or Scott?
That's a hard one because I think probably Alex. I think Scott would just like roll his eyes and walk away. They were so different in terms of the response to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then favorite villain of the whole series?
Wofat, for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Mark was amazing. And I had worked with Mark before 5-0, and I just knew he was going to do something really special with that character.
The guest star who surprised you the most, like in a good way.
Oh my. I think probably Carol, because Carol was, I grew up watching Carol and she was a comedian.
Yes.
The drama that she did on the show was pretty amazing. Because she had some funny moments on the show, but it was for the most part a dramatic role.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed seeing that other side of her. So I think that was pretty. I mean, look, that's a big name guest star, but I think that for me, I was so in love with what she did. So, and that's why we brought her back a couple times. So
I grew up my mom's favorite show. I've seen every episode of the Carol Burnett show. Did she ever do the Tarzan call for you guys?
She did.
Awesome.
She did. I think I have the video somewhere. She also sang the song that she used to sing at the end of the show, and she tugged her ear.
Yeah.
There's
That's
all
cool.
video from the set of that stuff.
That's really cool. Hardest stunt the team ever pulled off?
There were a lot.
I know Alex liked to do a lot of stuff himself too.
Yeah, he did. We did an episode that had this parkour chase, which was pretty dynamic and very dangerous. And it was something that really we couldn't. We literally had to shoot a lot of things in one take because it was like only one person could do that.
I gotcha.
It was pretty awesome. I mean, but most of our stunts were pretty big. So they were all pretty surprising and amazing to be when they were pulled off. So I don't remember actually the stunt not being pulled off. Our guys were great. So
it's awesome. And then which character was the most fun to write for? Or one of them.
I honestly would have to say either Scott for the cynicism, for the for his tone, but I loved writing for Taylor because Taylor was always coming up with these entrepreneurial sort of ideas that always would backfire. He was always expanding his reach as a businessman. So coming up with ideas for what he could be doing this year, because he'd always he started with
shave ice.
Shave ice, then he moved to shrimp truck, and then he moved to delivering shrimp, wanting to deliver shrimp. He did all these different businesses. He had the tour boat, he did a helicopter tour service, he did all these things, and that was so much fun because you could just write anything.
Yeah.
And he'd
make it work.
Make it work.
Yeah.
I also like writing for Jimmy Buffett. His character was fun.
Yeah.
He was fun. Sort of an old hippie, So.
And then what Hawaiian food item did you eat the most during filming?
God, during filming. A lot of Loco Moco. I mean,
Okay.
there's also the Rainbow Drive-In had this ice drink that I used to love. I don't remember what it is. But yeah, I mean, Hawaiian dish. There's fresh fish like you used to have fish every day. I mean, I consider that a Hawaiian dish because it was caught in the morning. We're eating it at lunch. So, but I wasn't a big Spam fan. I tried it a couple times. That was a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably say the Rainbow Drive-In. Anything from the Rainbow Drive-In was probably where I had most of my local food.
Okay. And then I know...
Or Side Street Cafe. That was another place. Anything Side Street Cafe made was local was amazing.
I think both are big in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in real life. But who wins in a real fight? McGarrett or Dano?
Probably Dano, because he would never give up, and he couldn't take losing. So even if he lost, he would sucker punch McGarrett. So.
Okay. And then, thank you so much. I have just 3 more questions I have about Alex, and then that's about it.
Okay.
That works for you. Alex is known for doing a lot of his own stunts and extremely physical stunt work. And then how did his commitment change how you wrote or directed action sequences, knowing that he'd be the one doing a lot of them, or a good chunk of them?
I always hoped he wouldn't be the one doing it.
Okay.
We had a great stunt doubles for him. Some stuff he did for sure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff he did not do.
Okay.
It was just too dangerous.
Sure.
And as the years went by, I think he was able to give up some.
Yeah, I recognize
of the stunts that he would normally do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly never expected him to do anything other than start a run, but not necessarily finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always hoped he, would do what most actors do, which is turn it over to the experts. So, yeah. But he was a physical guy, and he got into it when he felt it was safe enough for him to do it. So.
Okay. And then when writing McGarrett's character arc, what themes did you want to explore across the 10 seasons of the show?
Well, the show was built on the father-son sort of relationship and losing your father and then finding a family. So that dynamic about dealing with the loss of your father, dealing with the revelation of your mother, of who she is, who she was, why she abandoned you, opening yourself up from somebody who was a person of secrets, based on his background, naval intelligence, somebody who keeps everything inside, to be able to open up and to a new family, so the theme of family, brotherhood, ohana, that always was a big part of his sort of growth and maturity. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, love, trying to find that, realizing that he needed it. There was a lot over the years that we would play theme-wise, and sometimes it would be a focus of a season.